Hey guys, John here. I want to talk today a little bit about elevation certificates in the field and what information you need. I noticed a lot of crews getting the wrong information, not giving us enough information, and a few other errors. So we're just going to go over this, and hopefully this will help you out uh, to keep you from having to go back and get more information the second time. All right, so let's begin. What is an elevation certificate or an EC used for? An elevation certificate or a flood elevation certificate is a document needed to verify your property's elevation relative to the estimated height floodwaters could reach in the event of a major flood. In other words, we are out here collecting information to tell them as the floodwaters rise, where is what elevation do the waters need to rise to hit the house? What elevation do the waters need to rise to hit the finished floor and flood the house? All right. The accuracy of your EC is very important. If you mess up the elevations on this document, you can cost the homeowner a ton of money. All right, knowing what information goes into filling out this EC, I think is going to help you guys out a lot. So, um, also making small mistakes like marking the wrong building diagram or um, getting the hag and the lag in the wrong spot, that can drastically change the cost that a homeowner is going to pay on their flood insurance. So I want you guys to understand what you're doing and what you need to get so we can do it right. The most common mistakes I see is not checking into a benchmark within your tolerance or not checking into a benchmark at all. Getting the hag and lag in the wrong spots, not getting info on split level houses, not labeling the building, missing elevations, and bad pictures. So we're going to specifically go over these mistakes and hopefully this will help. All right, so not getting your benchmark, not checking into a benchmark with the GPS. This is a huge one. So if you're out there with your level and you're running a loop from your benchmark to the house and back to the benchmark, obviously this does not pertain to you. But if you are out there with a GPS and you're checking in, dropping a benchmark at the house and then running a loop around the house, this is very important. You have to go to your benchmark and shoot it before you go to the house and set your temporary benchmark. We have to prove that we are within our tolerance of 1/10, and we have to show what benchmark we checked into. So when you're filling these ECs out, one thing that you have to put on there is the PID and the benchmark information. So we have to tell them, was this used with GPS? What datum were we in? What's the PID of the benchmark we checked into? What was the elevation that we shot when we checked into it? All this information has to go on the elevation certificate when we fill it out. So we need that information from you in the field. Okay, getting the hag and the lag in the wrong spot is another big one. Let's go over what the hag and the lag means. All right, hag means highest adjacent grade. Lag, lowest adjacent grade. What that word adjacent means is right next to. So when I am getting my hag and my lag, I am telling them that the water needs to rise to this elevation to touch the house. That's what the lag is used for. So the water needs to rise to 10 feet before it's touching this house. And then if the water rises to 12 feet, the whole house is going to be underwater. That's what these two numbers are representing. So understanding that will probably help some of these guys out there in the field who are getting elevations in the middle of the front yard as their hag, or at the center line of the ditch as their lag. We don't need elevations on the lot because an elevation certificate is not for the lot. An elevation certificate is for the structure. All right. We're out here trying to determine what elevations this house will flood at, and what elevation will this house's AC flood at. So that the insurance can properly quote them, and they can pay a good amount or a correct amount, a fair amount for their insurance. Okay, not getting split level houses. This is huge. Okay, people are always going out here and trying to do an elevation certificate quick, fast, and in a hurry. They're not paying attention to what type of building they're getting the information on, and so they're missing split level houses. Slow down, take your time, understand what you're doing, and get the correct information. It will keep you from having to go back over and over again. All right. Some split level houses are very hard to spot. Some of them, this is a split level house. Now, we had to go back to this house because the crew did not notice it was a split level house. Luckily, we do a lot of research when filling these out, and we noticed that indeed it is a split level house. So we sent the crew back. And even after sending him back, he said, I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's the same level all the way around. So we had to literally have him get an elevation at each door before he realized it. Now what it is they have a sunken living room, and it is 4/10 lower at this door than it is at every other door. And he could not see that. He literally had to collect elevations to find that out. So it's very important to get elevations at each door around the house while you're doing these elevation certificates. And then, of course, some of them are very easy to spot, but I have crews that don't understand what elevations to get. So you got some like this. You can clearly see they're split level houses, but they still just get a finished floor and a garage. All right. So that's why understanding the different building diagrams and what elevations these different building diagrams require is very important. So real quick, let's go over the building diagrams. On an elevation certificate, you have to fill out section C. Section C is the elevation information, and they have section C2, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, So that's what you see here on these little bubbles, C2B, C2A, okay? So on a building diagram 1A, which is a slab on grade house, meaning they built a foundation and then they built a house on top of the foundation. You have to get the grade, the hag and the lag, so to speak, the bottom floor and the next higher floor. That has to be on the elevation certificate. On building diagram 1B, which is basically the same except it is a, what is it called? Stem wall house. So they basically, it looks like a slab on grade, but the finished floor is going to be much higher than the grade. They build a stem wall and then fill it in with dirt and then put the foundation down. So on diagram 1B, you have to get the same thing. Bottom floor grade, next higher floor. Building diagram 2, you're not going to see a lot of these in Florida, but this is a basement. Now, if you have a basement, a house with a basement, you have to get the basement floor. You have to get the finished floor. So you need an elevation down in here. You need an elevation on the finished floor. You need an elevation on the garage. And then you need an elevation on the grade at each building corner. All right, diagram 3, split level house. Okay, you need an elevation on each floor. C2A, C2B, grade. All right, so you would get an elevation at the garage, you'd get an elevation at the finished floor, you'd get elevations at each building corner for your grade to figure out what's your high and what's your lag, and then of course your equipment. Building diagram 4 is the same as 3, except it is subgrade, meaning it's underground. So the basement is at least 2 feet or more under the grade. So for us to determine that it's a diagram 4, we would have to get the ground elevations, the basement floor elevation, the next higher floor elevation, and the garage elevation, as well as equipment. Diagram 5, you got a house on stilts. As long as there is no structure under here, no enclosed structure, then you're talking about diagram 5. On diagram 5, we need the elevation underneath the building, the finished floor, next higher floor if there is one, and then your grade elevations, of course. And for V zones, you need what is an LHSM, lowest horizontal structure member. So that would be right here. So you would measure up to the lowest horizontal point. All right. So I would call that right here. Diagram 6. Same thing as a diagram 5, but it's got an enclosed structure, and you would need the same elevations, except we need the finished floor of this enclosed structure. And I always put what type of enclosed structure it is. So is it storage? Is it entry to the next floor? Is it a bathroom? What is it? I put that down there. So again, if you're in a V zone, you need the LHSM. So you need this elevation. You need the garage elevation or the parking area elevation. Elevation of this finished floor. Elevation of this finished floor. Diagram 7, this is, kind of like a townhouse. I see this a lot on townhouses where you have an entire level that is not a living space, and then the next level is the living space. So basically your bottom floor is a garage. Okay? On this one, you would need the flood vents, the size, the type, all that. The grade, the finished floor of the garage, and the next higher finished floor. Diagram 8 is a house with a crawl space. Anytime you have flood vents, you need the size and type of flood vents. All right. So if you have a crawl space, we want to know the elevation of the crawl space. We want to know the grade, of course, the next higher floor, and the flood vents. Now diagram 9 is just like a diagram 8, except the crawl space is subgrade. It's underground. It has to be 2 feet below the grade. Okay? So the lowest adjacent grade has to be 2 feet higher than the crawl space floor. All right, now you need the flood vents, the size and type. You need the subgrade floor, or the crawl space floor, the next higher floor, the grade, and the equipment. Okay, pictures. Pictures are very important. What I see a lot of times is people are zooming in real close on the front door, getting a picture of just the front door. Zooming in real close on the garage door, getting a picture of just the garage door. That is not what we need. That will not work. I know that not every circumstance will allow you to back up and get the entire house in the picture, but get as much of the house in the picture as possible. And if I can only get this half, then I get this half, and I turn a little bit and I get this half. But what they ask for on the elevation certificates is they want to see end to end, and they want to see ground to roof. So you want to back up and get as much of the house in the picture as possible, like these. And then after you get the front and the back and all sides, and again, end to end, ground to roof, after you get all the sides of the house, then you can zoom in on the equipment and get a picture of just the equipment, or zoom in on the front door or any problem areas you feel need to be included. But the important thing you have to remember is you need to back up and get as much of the house in the picture as possible. Okay, and those are the biggest issues we have with elevation certificates, and I hope this was helpful. If you guys want more, please leave it in the comments, and as always, be safe.